Vodafone presents the pre-match.
In a game that is unparalleled when it comes to the execution of being at the very, very best, we have crowned ourselves a champion of StarCraft II every single Intel Extreme Masters Katowice, and we're not slowing down anytime soon. It's a beautiful setting to crown a world champion here at the Intel Extreme Masters. Welcome to the desk. My name's Kayalaris, and joining me to my right-hand side, I have Maynard and Mr. DeMuslim. Guys, it's the final day. We've had 5 days of excellent games so far. It's a magical feeling being here.
I mean, everything in that pre-show there after Smix's introduction. First of all, I got chills seeing Zest come up out on the stage again with that incredible trophy. And then all the recaps. Like, there were a few series that I forgot. There were so many magical moments that have happened in this tournament already over the last 6 days that video just hit home for me how incredible this event is and has been and continues to be, I hope, with these semifinals coming up.
Ben?
I mean, yeah, when you see all those faces and true anguish on these players and the amount of upsets that we've had this tournament, it's been a rocky, rocky road, and now we're down to the Final Four. And these guys, all of them have suffered like some pretty harsh defeats in their tournament history. It's such a sick tournament. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, let's take a look at the bracket on how all of these players have got here, of course. We only have 4 remaining to find out who is going to become our world champion. herO and soO are going to be going up against one another in a best-of-5 up towards the top, and down to the bottom, it's Stats versus Dark. We have PVZ and PVZ into whatever it could be there in that grand final, which will be a best-of-7. Gentlemen, so far so good for our top 4. What do you make of our top 4?
I mean, first of all, the elephant in the room is that a lot of the favorites are out of this tournament, that these 4 players absolutely deserve to be there. And what I've got to commend you and Rotterdam at the end of our show yesterday at just basically showing everyone watching that these 4 players actually have a really incredible story coming into this final. All of them, or at least a good chunk of them, have been second place too many times for their liking, and they want to get that coveted first. herO managed to make it to the final stage one time in Intel Extreme Masters Katowice, getting cannon rushed 4 games in a row and not getting 100K. soO missed a second place himself. This battle, just this first semi, so much is on the line.
Yeah, absolutely. As you say, so many second places, be it the frequency of second places or the high kind of pressure situation that they have taken first, second places here, Ben. Overall, when you look at the top 4, let's kind of briefly talk about herO and soO first. Their roads have been rocky, even though there's been a lot of 3-0s in our bracket, you know, in the group stages. They didn't have some of the easiest times to be able to get here.
Rocky, to say the least, Galaris. herO almost went out in the offline qualifier here. I remember he was 1-0 down against Goblin from Croatia. Should have lost that second game and he would have been out. That was the loser bracket match. But he has clambered on through. He made it through a whole PvP group, 3-2 in 3rd place.
Yes.
Then in the bracket stage, also just PvP. But then he came alive out of nowhere. Hasn't dropped a map yet in the bracket. Going on ahead, though, he is up against soO, and I haven't seen him yet against a Zerg player, I don't believe.
Yeah, there is an interesting thing, of course, with soO on the other side, who, if you're not aware, defeated the world champion from BlizzCon, of course, herO, who has been on a winning streak of tournament after tournament after tournament, and soO, one of the most prolific legends in StarCraft II when it comes to how many second places he's got. It's kind of apt that he's defeated the world champion on a stage like this.
I mean, if that doesn't deserve you a seat in the final, I don't know what does. Eliminating herO from a tournament in one of the best CVZs I've seen in the history of this video game. It's pretty sick. I mean, soO has also just scraped by. Like how herO was very precarious in the open bracket stages, nearly going down to Goblin, as we mentioned, getting knocked into the loser's bracket by Scarlet, which I think is the biggest PvZ that he's played so far. soO, likewise, got a little bit lucky to get through Group D, honestly. Like, obviously, there was a lot of skill involved because he won enough series to get there, but he was 2-3. Which is never a strong position in groups.
And there were 4 people, 2 and 3.
Exactly.
3 of which did not advance.
Exactly. So it was a bit of a tiebreaker, very, very scary. But since he got into the round of 12, he's been looking so monstrous.
Yeah.
Not even herO could stop soO from getting second place in a tournament. That's saying something.
That was the big test, right? Which was going to be stronger, the constant first places of herO or the second places of soO? Let's hope, you know, soO has a bit more fortune than that, I suppose, if he gets to the final.
He had a really difficult road getting here. Zest, that could have been a really tricky matchup, but he monster moded Zest. Really, really hard, 3-0. Then going up against herO, that was a really heart-wrenching series in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like, I was so sad to see herO lose, but I was so happy that of all people to kind of dethrone him or take him out of the tournament, it was soO. And soO, He's been playing really, really well. This is going to be a really good match against herO.
Yeah, I think so as well. It could be very turbulent depending on how herO's approaching the Zerg matchup, of course, because in his PvP, he's been very, very aggressive. Of course, we'll get a chance to talk about that later, just before the match actually begins. Let's move on to Stats versus Dark as well, down towards the bottom. In my mind, at the beginning of this tournament, if my money wasn't on serO, it was going to be on Stats. They've met each other multiple times in grand finals, and it's not gone Stats' way, just barely. But now, he doesn't have to contend with the world champion here on this tournament stage.
Absolutely not. I mean, Dark mentioned that he really wanted to get revenge against serO. The amount of times that serO's made him look bad after talking a lot of smack on the foreign scene, he really wanted to do it himself. He didn't want to have it done at the hands of soO. Dark is another one of those players that, as we mentioned, he is a little bit cocky. A little bit cocky, and he really, really, really wants to get that final. He can taste it. He's so close. He's won an SSL. He's an SSL champion, but that is not the Intel Extreme Masters Katowice. He wants to win the big one, but he's up against Stats, who is also really wanting that trophy. He's been second place so many times in the last year or so. Yep. GSL versus the World, BlizzCon, and also making it to a GSL grand final, and then Maru getting in his way. So, you know, he really wants that big trophy again as well, just to show everyone that he is the best Protoss in the world.
Of all the people that are left in this tournament, though, these are the two guys that have looked kind of untouchable.
Yeah.
Dark went 4-1 in his group stage, but the last match that he lost against Maru, it was kind of like, I'm going to finish first regardless, so we don't know if that can say too much. Stats, I think in his group stage, lost the minimal amount of maps that you can pretty much.
5-0.
Yeah, it was crazy. And when he went up against Neeb as well, it was a 3-0. Dark also looked very strong against soO. These are the two Titans left in the tournament. They've not looked inconsistent at all. They've looked very, very solid, and that's also an insane match.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen, for the moment, as we are almost ready here to greet our players and get everything going. Let's head over to the main stage with Smix.
Thank you very much, collectors. It is my honor to introduce the players for our first semifinal match of the day. It is one between two absolute titans. Coming up first is the Prince of IEM himself. He's a three-time Intel Extreme Masters champion. Please welcome on stage, it is herO. Going up against herO is one of the most consistent Zerg players of all time. He is a 6-time GSL Grand Finalist. Give it up for soO!
Alright, here we are. soO up against herO, the first semi-final to kick off a beautiful finals day of StarCraft.
Yet another Protoss versus Zerg. Very excited for this one, as these two, they've been on an absolute tear so far in this tournament. They've looked incredible, and I think they're excellent in the matchup as well. Looking forward to seeing how scrappy these games can get. And I wouldn't be surprised if we had some epic ones here up in the making.
I wouldn't be surprised if that man on the left-hand side of the stage is looking for those scrappy games. herO, he seems to have just found his way through so many hard situations in this tournament. soO, of course, also starting off with a rocky road in the group stages, but stabilized and showed us an incredible performance, eliminating serO in that round of 8 match. Both of these players have had to work hard to get here. It hasn't been an easy road for either of them. They've been tested every single step of the way, and now they find themselves here on the main stage with a chance at that spot in the grand finals.
Yeah, 2 storied players here at the Intel Extreme Masters as well. herO, he was once nicknamed the Prince of IEM, multiple first place finishes. That was years ago. Obviously, he had that finals here in Katowice. That was winners take all, which he did lose to SOS, so SOS won 100,000 and herO didn't win anything back then. That was quite heartbreaking, but now he's back, he's in the semifinals, and he's going up against a soO who also has taken a second place that was back at Gamescom in 2015, and who love, I think, to win this one, because not only there is a trophy that's very well respected on the line, but also a whole lot of money.
Oh yeah, this is one of the biggest tournaments of the year, one of the biggest prize pools, and it would really just put all of their previous accomplishments down on the second pedal, of course. If you could win here, it would be the highlight of their absolute career for these players. And going into the first semi-final, the players are going to have to bring out their A game. soO, the much more kind of straightforward, relatively macro-oriented player, but he's pulled out some aggressive rushes throughout. He's surprised a few of his opponents, but there's no doubt we look at this man, herO, as the one who wants to get the game down and dirty. He wants to keep the aggression going. His micro has brought him out of so many bad situations. We've seen him winning games with next to no economy, resurrecting himself against players like Trap in that round of 8 as well, coming back and winning series. We thought he was down in 3-0 somehow. It's just been crazy to see him survive so many of those situations, and it seems like the herO of old is back again.
And he definitely should be looking to try and be the aggressor here in those games. That's what he's known for, his attacks. And if you're soO, you got a couple choices, like how safe do you try to play? Do you maybe get dragged down in the mud and try to throw some very aggressive builds back at herO to try and catch him off guard? I guess we're gonna find out, Pig.
Oh yeah. You know what that camera shot means? It means we're about to finally get underway. The semi-finals, it's about to happen, and it's gonna kick off with one of the most exciting, unpredictable matches out there. Let's go into it. Up here in the top left-hand side of Cyber Forest, give your support for the Blue Protoss. His name is herO.
The smiling assassin, not quite smiling yet. And his opponent in the southeast, playing as the Red Zerg, it is Chivo's soO.
Complete focus on soO's face. Eyes of a killer there, comes down and finds herO here, the aggressive player, already trying to be as irritating as possible. Looking to block that hatchery. soO here actually not going to the third base and just trying to bully that probe away. Didn't go for the pull first either. He was banking on herO not putting a pylon down to block. Luckily for soO, herO doesn't go for it. And soO, knowing his opponent's patterns, you could tell normally a player would go for the third base there, but soO, having studied his opponent, realized herO wasn't going to opt for the pylon and gets the hatchery down.
And herO has always been one of those guys who in PvZ has always had a very clean style, whether it was, you know, coming down to big pushers with a lot of sentries and stalkers, blink stalkers being one of the key units that he had a lot of success with in the past. The game has changed quite a bit since then, but I expect him to still be really good with all the small details whenever it comes down to using stuff like adepts. If he was to use War Prisms, we've seen incredible stuff from him in the past, and even Stargate units. He can use it all, and in terms of build order, he can really threaten soO with having to go the extra mile with the scouting, because you really have to know what's coming at you.
And it seems like soO has indeed prepared with that in mind, Todd. He's gone for that early worker scout, delayed the nexus of herO a little bit at the same time, and has stolen one of herO's gas geysers in the main base, just blocking that off, slowing down the tech ever so slightly of herO, but more importantly, checking there's no forge, there's no cannon rush. He knows that herO's the sort of player who might pull something absolutely insane out in this series. He might just try to win in the first few minutes. soO is checking for everything. This Overlord watching over that natural. It's going to see that Adept come out.
Yeah, this is really cool from soO to do this, because not only you got a clean scout, also taking that gas. It might not seem like a big deal because herO took it on the expansion, but he's long distance mining from it for a very long time. So if he wanted to go for something like a Stargate or even a Twilight Council into Archon attack, it's that much harder with such little gas income in comparison. So now it almost feels as if he was forced to go into a robo, which soO might have anticipated and be fully reading into already.
Wow, the probe in here trying to join this Adept in the pressure. The Adept here, he actually cancels the Shade. He's going to take down a few of these Zerglings. soO losing a lot of mining time. His Lings do manage to scramble to the defense, but herO going to back off, going to Shade on out of that base. Another Adept joining up, syncing them up, but the Queen there has something to say about it.
Yeah, and with the Robo on the way here, herO, he's got quite a few choices. He could add a bunch more gateways and just be aggressive with the Prism and on the map. He's going to start an Immortal right off the bat here, so we'll see exactly here what he wants to add with this. Gonna keep on working on his wall as well. This is about the time in the game where you need to start adding additional gateways as well so you can have some sort of decent production going. Not your typical build against her. We don't see Immortals like this very often. Once upon a time, that was a big part of the meta with the Soul Train, the 3 Immortals that you would attack with a lot of sentries. But now that the Ravager has been introduced in the game here in Legacy of the Void, it's much harder to make that work because those can cancel out force fields, and sentry attacks are that much more difficult. So we got a Forge on the way as well now. And how aggressive does herO want to play here? That's the big question. Does he want to take a third base and build up his economy, or is he going to commit to a big attack?
That's the question going on in soO's mind right now as well. He's wondering just what is the plan? He saw the robotics go down. herO wasn't coy at all. He actually showed that to soO, and that makes me think he might be fishing for an overreaction. You've always got to be prepared for that strong Immortal push. A single Warp Prism is out, but herO's dropped a Forge behind it. He's adding on more gases. I think herO's just going to be opting for a third base. He's looking to get rid of that Overlord, push back soO's vision, and that'll be the first moment where herO finally has a little bit of privacy on his side of the map.
Whoa! Oof, that was close. All right. Scared me here for a second. The Overlord finally is going to get sniped. And now we have +1 on the way. herO still building up his economy. He's already up to 46 probes. And on the other side, 10 roaches are going to start Twilight Council from herO. So I think you read this pretty nicely. And herO definitely revealed his Immortal to try and make soO overreact, get a ton of units, maybe not make as many drones as he should be making. And then if herO just kind of takes the third base, he would be in a pretty good spot economically and in terms of tech. He's already got the +1 going. That was decently early here with that Forge.
Indeed, that upgrade advantage will compound. soO, however, has 3 bases, and we see herO here just looking for a bit of light pressure. The Immortal's going to go fishing for a few worker kills. Meanwhile, the Stalker's looking for the Overlord on the left-hand side. Has to worry about that Queen. It's already focusing down the Immortal, dealing what damage it can, and herO's just going to pull out of there. No kills. The Overlord survives, as do the workers, but he's keeping soO back.
Oh, you got the Overlord. That was another one. So that may have forced a few more extra ones here. soO, 52 workers to 46. Again, you know, this is the whole point of playing against Zerg. You need to slow their economy, because if you just let them drone up to 60 or 70 too fast, you're always going to be in a ton of trouble. So that's the whole point of the way herO has played. Initially with the first few Adepts, now with the War Prism. And he's going to be starting a third Nexus here momentarily, and he's already going into that Templar Archives, whereas soO is, I want to say, almost stuck on low tech right now, because his economy is not where he would have liked it to be. soO might actually be going for a massive attack here. That's a lot of Ravagers. Those are, I mean, you get them for the defense if the opponent's attacking, but if you get this many Ravagers early on and the opponent doesn't attack, it feels like you're the one that has to attack.
Yeah, this is an insanely huge army building up for soO. So many Ravagers and Lings. You can see it in the supply count. No tech, no upgrades on the way for soO. Meanwhile, herO is going for lots of upgrades. +2 on the way. Immortals, Archons, Charge Zealots. The question is, are they going to be ready in time? soO's army is just continuing to build up. He's still showing no sign of wanting to add workers. His Lings probing around, looking for an angle. I feel like herO is going to need to swap into a defensive stance here. More and more Roaches pounding out soO. Looks like he wants to finish this with a huge Roach Zergling Ravager all in attack. He's not going to have any fallback behind this.
Yeah, this seems like herO just, he was planning for this, I think, just to go higher in tech and hoping that soO makes a lot of units. And he played to his image, because I think a lot of people would expect him to play aggressive. I expected him, probably soO expected him to play very aggressive as well. So soO made a ton of units. He was like, I'm going to defend whenever you go for the attack, which sometimes is kind of hard to read into whether or not a player is going for it. So he's making a ton of units, but upon realizing that herO is not quite attacking, I think soO's going to be the one moving across the map, perhaps, to try and get an engagement. Actually, he was going to move across the map, and then he saw herO move out. So he's probably like, all right, if you're going to be the one attacking, maybe I should stay on creep and set up a huge flank to take a good fight.
That'd be really bad if herO commits here. herO seems set on hitting with +2 attack. Yes, this is a powerful army, but right now, soO is actually even on economy with him. herO needs to pull back. There is no way he can push through that amount of Zerg.
Yeah, herO still wants, he really wants to attack. He only stayed on 46 probes. He's grabbing a Dark Shrine behind this. That was the saving grace against Trap yesterday. The Immortals joining the fight now. Corrosive bites are going to be so important. They're focused on breaking those force fields right now. A lot of Zerg units trapped in the middle.
Those force fields just separating so many of the roaches stuck in the backlines. But the corrosive files are beginning to punish herO. The micro doing very well here for herO, but he's run out of force fields. Is there enough Zerg left over? Yes, there is. The swell of Zerglings comes in from behind and surrounds the push. herO frantically trying to micro these last few Immortals, but soO read the play fantastically. He stayed down on upgrades and built a huge army after that crushing defeat. herO pulls home. He throws down a Dark Shrine in desperation, hoping that the Invisible Dark Templar can somehow get him back in this game.
And almost as if herO knew that this was going to be defended, he dropped a Dark Shrine. The War Prism is forced to come back home, sadly, so he's not going to be able to warp in Dark Templars on the other side of the map to try and snipe a lot of drones to come back the way he did against Trap. soO jumping on top of these forces here from herO. He was completely out of position.
herO does not have the numbers he needs. This was a shutdown by soO. Clinical read. He knows he's against an aggressive player. He scouted everything he needed to, and he just waited for herO to come across the map. herO overextending into him and now simply unable to defend.
Look at the supply pig, it's plummeting rapidly. herO all out of forces. You're down to 1 Immortal and some sentries. soO with a brilliant massing of an army. He knew the attack was gonna come. And herO, he was just too predictable there. soO takes game number 1. I thought for a moment, the fact that herO had rushed for the Templar Archives, if he would just make more probes, go for High Templars, he would be totally fine with his Immortal count, or totally fine. He would have a good chance against the army of soO, especially off creep. And if you reach something like 4 High Templars with energy, that would have been okay, I think. But no, even I got sold on this. I thought he was just gonna play a more tech-heavy style and just saturate his third base. soO knew all along, even before perhaps herO knew in this case. He just made units, and then he played right into his plan that herO actually went on his side of the map and attacked into him. And I feel like if herO had gone for Storm, he would have had a really good chance there.
Absolutely agree with you on that, Todd. It's one of those situations where it felt like herO's entire game plan from the early game, showing the robotics early, showing a fast Immortal. It felt like he was fishing for an early over-response from soO, and then to go for the fake third base. Remember, there were no probes on it, and surprised with this big +2 attack, the superior tech. soO, though, never felt like catching up in the tech. herO was no doubt looking to try and make soO feel like he was going to the next stage. He was giving off that impression, right? Yeah. Adding the Immortals, adding the Archons. He wanted soO to go for a Spire or an Infestation Pit, some Evo Chambers, build another base and some more drones. But soO was so patient, he knew the attack was coming. He read his opponent like a book.
All right, here we are on Automaton, our second map, starting in the top right-hand side of the map, playing as the Blue Protoss. It is herO.
And his opponent down here in the bottom left-hand side, the defeater of SeRL, up 1-0 with a clean Game 1 victory. Give your energy to soO!
Definitely a bit of a storied rivalry between these two. 15 and 13 in series in herO's favor, but he's actually down in maps, interestingly. So 39-45. So they've played quite a few maps against each other in the past, not just on the ladder, but in official tournaments. And they meet here yet again at the highest of levels in the semifinals here at the Intel Extreme Masters Katowice. With all the marbles on the line, as Skylights would say.
Absolutely. Everything here is on the line, all the pride, all the money. And it's at this moment that herO decides to do a 2-gate opening. The Madman, this is something you almost never see in this matchup. He's going to be looking for early momentum, probably with a couple of adepts. And we do have a proxy getting ready on the top side. With it being that close, I've got to think it's an Oracle follow-up. 2, maybe 4 adepts dive in, keep soO on the back foot, and Oracle slides in the back. It's a huge gamble, though, because if soO scouts this and realizes what's up, he will be able to shut it down. soO going up to 3 bases versus 1, though. Yeah. It's much more important for him to be getting queens out. This could work very well in this meta where all the Zergs are going for that fast third base.
And I think that's what herO was anticipating. This is the exact same build order from soO here. with that quick third hatchery on location, Stargate being dropped down now. So in terms of Queens, usually you might not have enough against that first Oracle when it flies in, just because that has been proxied. But now soO spots the double gateway, and with the double chrono boost on it, he might be able to realize that something's up. Because obviously when somebody goes for a depth like this, they can definitely follow that up with something out on the map like a Stargate. So he's gonna check for that Nexus. soO sees that there is no Nexus right now. This is a big tell that it's a very, very aggressive build here that we have from herO, even besides the initial adepts that he knows are coming now.
These adepts are already coming across the map. A Stalker followed up to deny scouting, but soO already sees he's up against a one-base opponent. Every single drone evacuating from the natural. He's going to try and consolidate his defenses in the main. There isn't even a queen out just yet. Those adepts, they dive into the main base, starting to get some worker kills. The Zerglings, though, are going to push them back. And there we go. The adepts having his shade out. If he loses an adept, that's terrible. That's a lot of the pressure gone. One of the adepts goes down. And that takes the damage out of this, because those adepts, you need 2 of them to one-shot the workers. Suddenly nowhere near as scary.
Oh, and soO gets the scout on the Stargate here. This is huge, because now he can get positioned better against the Oracle that could fly in and start killing drones left and right. This is massive. We got a second Oracle on the way. He starts a Spore. There is a timer on these Oracles to actually do the most damage that they can do here. The first one flies in. Nice run around with the drones. He's going to minimize the damage so well. Only 2 drones going down.
A lot of mining time, though, and soO already being forced into Spore Crawl as he's down at 21 workers, but desperately trying to build that worker count is soO. He's up to 26 now. He needs to get more workers out, and there's 2 Oracles, enough to one-shot drones. They're going to rotate around and look for an angle. Back at home, an adept gone outside the wall. An uncharacteristic screw-up there by herO. Now only a Stalker. That does not have enough damage output. Oh, this is a huge win for soO. herO cannot be affording these sorts of mistakes at this point.
And he's flying back with the Oracles. He needs to re-wall behind this. There's still quite a few links. That's going to be a lot of the energy here from these Oracles to try and get rid of this. soO playing so convincingly well. Pulls back as the Oracles trigger that beam here. soO is getting closer and closer to making it yet to another Grand Finals.
That's all the time soO needed to stabilize. He's up to 40 workers, and the natural and the third base now have Spore Crawlers up. That's right, soO has the anti-air. These Oracles were meant to be spending this time finding workers, picking them off, picking off lone stray queens. But instead, soO is now locked down tight, and herO is going to need to be very, very good at finding openings. Coming in with these Oracles, might just dive on it.
Ooh, oh, and he loses one.
Oh, that's so bad.
Wow.
So much of that ability to scout throughout the rest of the game does go down there. Things going wrong for herO in game number 2. It's a tough start to the series for the Protoss player. He's going to be following this up with an Archon drop.
Okay, how is this Phoenix killing Overlords? This is ridiculous right now. That's going to be saved actually with a nice transfusion.
Oh, you can't lose that Phoenix, herO. At least he has pushed back most of the vision. He can bring that home to take out the Overlord at his own wall. The Stargate falls, and more gateways going down. Todd.
This wasn't the damage that he would have liked here, I think, for herO, obviously. 36 workers to 42 now. He's going into a Twilight Council, adding on a lot more gateways. Did he get glaives, or did he not start it yet?
Nope.
I didn't see anything.
No upgrades at all.
I would assume glaives, but you can also go charge here with this build, but... Oh, he's not mining gas.
I think it's a 7.
Yeah, he's not mining gas. He's just going to be a follow-up, massive all-in with a ton of charge lots here.
I think he forgot charge, Todd. He's just started it, and he started chrono boosting it. He's had the money for it for a while. The gateways are finishing. herO has to delay this attack for another minute or so, and we already see roaches in the production tab. The stasis trap coming in. Going to try and be as annoying as possible, delay a little bit of mining time. herO's looking to distract his opponent.
This guy's still going. This Phoenix is still finding Overlords somehow. That's a lot of charge lots here, Pig. And I think soO is going to need a ton of roaches. Maybe he's just sacked the third base. He should realize that herO's not doing so well in the economy side of things.
He's just got to defend that ramp.
He needs to kites.
Yeah, he's got all of his queens wedged together on that ramp where they can't be surrounded. If he keeps his units in a nice ball, that's going to work out very well. And that charge not being done. You can see here, herO, he's going back and checking his Twilight Council because the charge upgrade is not finished. It's another 15 seconds. He's waiting, he's looking for an angle, but this has given soO the time to get a gigantic roach force out.
This is so bad. He's going to lose so many Zealots before charge even finishes. And even then, soO's army was looking massive with all of the roaches, with the queens and the transfusions available here. It feels like he doesn't even need to kite.
This is just dominating play
by soO. A Zealot all incoming, and he's finally starting to get a little bit of damage done to those queens. I love the Phoenix picking up the queen at the back as well. The Zealot starting to wear down the numbers. The extra roaches aren't here just yet. The roach count going down. soO perhaps making a mistake by fighting in the open. He did have enough numbers, but with those roaches coming in, Spines walking in from the third base as well. Is he going to be able to get together a defense? The Zealots, when the roaches are spread out like this, are incredibly powerful. Their raw damage output is insane.
Yeah, trying to crank out more units here is soO, but with the loss of those queens, he's not injecting on neither the second base or third base here. The Spines coming to join the fight. The drones were on stop commands, and that Prism deep behind enemy territories here. This has killed 8 drones. I don't think that's enough here. 36 workers now to 46, and it feels like this has been shut down for now.
Yeah, he got more workers than I really thought he was going to. But even then, 8 workers, when you're mining next to no gas behind it, it's not enough damage for herO. He's going to keep dropping, looking for a drone kill or two, but he's got to keep these units alive. It's his only presence on soO's side of the map, and it is a rough start to the series. Still has some air utility, but with only 2 bases up against the 3 bases of soO. soO comfortable to keep massing roaches, zerglings, queens. It kept him alive in the previous game, and I think he's got the same mindset here. If you just make enough of these units, herO's attacks are going to just be stopped. There's too much Zerg on the map.
herO, after going through the initial part here of that rush, doing a little bit of economic damage, he's looking to try and score some more drone snipes. The War Prism went down, so these units are trapped. I don't know where he's even running at this point, but this is going to go down as well, and this gets cleaned up. I cannot believe he lost that Prism. You had one job, herO.
Starts another Prism, realizes it's hopeless, cancels it, starts an Immortal. He can't make up his mind because he knows he's got only a few bad decisions to make. I think he's going to just opt for the third base and try to hang on and defend it. We'll have to see. He did start +1 upgrades on the Forge. A probe going out, thinking about taking a third base, but he sees a gigantic army of roaches moving across the map. And that mass of Zerg is something you have to respect as the Protoss player.
And especially with Ravagers ready to break those force fields here. soO's gonna set up a surround here. The Lynx coming in from the left-hand side. Force fields go down, but I don't know if he has enough to really trap this army away. So many roaches getting on top of these sentries and Immortals. The Immortals are just gonna go down, and that's it. The army of herO is just gonna evaporate. And with it, the second map as well.
Devastating. Completely in his stride right now. soO takes it to the 2-0 lead and is only 1 map away from going through to that grand finals. He hasn't looked like he's slowed down even the tiniest bit. herO unable to come up with the answers that he needs.
The soO doesn't lie. his supply certainly didn't here. With double the numbers of herO, some fantastic defense. It looked a little bit dicey for a second. It almost felt as if herO was going to break through, but not quite able to get there. And at this point, it's almost like herO is just too predictable. He's just playing super aggressive. You know, he went to page 1 of the great book of Protoss builds, proxy Stargate at depths. Then that didn't work, went to page number 2. Charge, except he forgot to start the charge, so that was obviously not very good. And then he was like, all right, next page, what is it going to be? Immortal push. But soO, before that could even happen, shut down that Prism, went for the counterattack, and right now, soO's running the show.
Yep. The early Adept going down, and then that other Adept not being there at home in the wall was massive for herO. These are the sort of uncharacteristic mistakes that soO will pounce upon. We often talk about how soO makes his opponents look simple and easy. Well, this man here, he is going to need to step it up in a big way. The Prince of IEM, a 3-times champion in years past. He's back here, he's in the semifinals, and he needs your energy more than ever. Up in the top left-hand side, put your hands together for herO! And down here in the bottom right-hand side, in the red, the monster, the second place finisher in many tournaments, but here he's here for the championship. He took Serral out in the previous round, and he's not done yet. Put your hands together for soO!
I knew those roaches would get you going, Pig.
Well, you know, soO is a big fan of the roaches, and the way he just crushes his opponents makes me a massive fan. There's few players as decisive as he is. We saw him in that crazy match against herO yesterday, the absolute highlight of the tournament for me, but here he is back in his regular form of just crushing. We've seen him do it to so many champions in the past, where he makes them look like they're almost an entire level below him. When the game goes right for soO, he just gets in control, he runs away with it, and his opponents seem to have absolutely nothing to say about it.
And at this point, where do you go from here if you're herO? It's so difficult. He's playing super aggressive and everything he's throwing at soO is being answered perfectly. So perhaps that good old mind game of, you know, selling that you're playing very aggressive but playing more of an economic-based game. But maybe herO is just not that confident in his later stages of Protoss versus Zerg. But I really feel like he's just too predictable. He's playing super aggressive, soO's ready, he defends everything, and I'm afraid we're going to be seeing one more of those games if he chooses to play aggressive again and soO realizes what's happening here.
I think the answer here all comes down to the psychological state of herO. He's a player who doesn't need to play the same style as other players. He has his own set of plays, he's got his own weird playbook, but it always hinges upon very fine execution. And we haven't seen it out of him in that last game. Too many small mistakes. The way herO plays, it's about creating a messy game, the sort of game where his micro can shine, his ability to control his units, and to figure out those weird ways to take advantage in the strategic situation, which no one else even thinks about. We saw him resurrect himself, really, from the grave against Trap yesterday with a beautiful DT comeback. We've seen him do it time and again. We've seen him do it against Scarlet in GSL. herO has brought himself back many times, and this is the moment where he just needs to ignore and forget about the last few games. He needs to come into this with a fresh mindset and bring that confidence that we know herO for. He needs to just micro his heart out, create a little bit of chaos, and within that, maybe, just maybe, he can start a comeback against soO.
And once upon a time, what herO was known for, back when he had the most success in those ESL Extreme Masters, where he won all 3 of them, he was that guy that basically would scout and react perfectly. As soon as he scouted with either a hallucinated Phoenix or an observer, he decided all of the timings that he was to go for and all of the attacks. Nowadays, it feels like with minimal information, he's already pre-decided what he was going to throw at the opponent. No, I mean, obviously, it depends on the execution and all that, and how the opponent reacts, and if he maybe misreads you. But in this case, soO has read perfectly everything that was headed his way so far. Scouted the Stargate in the previous game. In the first game, he knew that the big attack was going to come despite having a 3rd Nexus. And all he had to do was get ready, defend, and win. And that's just what happened. So herO, it feels like he needs to change things up. Obviously, in PvZ, you can only play so passive. You have to at least send a couple of units across the map to slow down the drone production. But off the back of that is what I'm really curious in terms of how aggressive herO is going to be playing.
I love this move, dropping the Adepts. He's going to shade them in, try to take out a few workers, and then quickly pick up and leave. But soO, well prepared, does manage to deflect that for now. This is actually a build order. The robotics first usually tells the Zerg you're going to be exceptionally aggressive. This is the same build we've seen herO use before, and he actually is quite greedy behind it. He's adding on upgrades, a Twilight Council, lots of probe production. He's fishing here for drone kills, but more importantly, he's hoping that soO will over-respond by building too many army units and not build enough drones. This is such an annoying form of harassment. Once again, just snatches a drone, picks up and leaves. herO utilizing that micro. And if soO wants to get ahead versus this, he needs to just hold down the drone key.
Oh, and that was great here. herO faked that he was going to fly into the main base. soO started running around with the Lynx, looking to try and go there, and herO picked up on that, dropped right back into that 3rd base, and immediately sniping drones once again here. And really good micro here so far from herO. These Adepts did some serious traveling there. Shade into pickup.
You were talking about trying to force an overreaction maybe being the answer here. You know, look like you're being aggressive and actually be defensive and macro up. Well, guess what, Todd? I think herO's doing it. He's got that 3rd base on the way. He's not probing up right now, but you can see soO is very afraid. He's down at just 48 workers. He's massing roaches. He's low on tech. soO is afraid of the potential of an incoming push. This is very similar to that game number 1. And as we said after that game, it felt like if herO had just added more probes, teched up a little bit more and played defensive, he could have done it. Seeing this roach count with a double hallucination, seeing that the worker count is not that high when he gets to the 3rd, this has got to be a big tell for herO. Yeah. He has to respond, and I really would love to see probes queuing up for the Protoss player.
Yeah, me too. I think it'd be a great way to just saturate the third base. And this time, don't make Archons. Just go for High Templars, get Storm early on, and he would be in a pretty good spot, I think, if he did that. On this map, taking the third base and securing it seems fairly easy in comparison to taking a fourth base. I think the fourth base is really the tricky one, and that goes both ways. But Zerg needs their fourth base more than Protoss, because they're supposed to be up a base a lot of the time. So perhaps just build up that economy a little bit more, get a ton of units, and then whenever soO finally takes that fourth base, if there are storms and stuff like that, then herO can finally attack and try to find some success here in one of those big fights. And so far, no storm has started. High Templars being warped in.
Probes finally coming in. The gas is on the third. I think you might have your wish, Todd. That makes me think he's probably going to go for Psystorm here. He hasn't morphed them into Archons just yet. Still might do that with the first few, but this is the sort of setup you need to do. soO has droned up a little bit more, but only a little bit. 59 workers, not a gigantic economy for the Zerg player. Remember, Zerg already so far behind in the upgrades, just starting his +1. So even though soO's got a fourth base, he's not really even utilizing his full 3 bases just yet. He's only very slowly adding workers. And herO here finally adapting and showing flexibility and saying, all right, soO, you've countered my rushes, knowing I was going to go for a big push. This time, I'm going to sit back for a little bit longer. Let's see how you adjust and adapt to that.
And Storm actually now starts. soO, as opposed to the first game here, I think he identified pretty early that there wasn't going to be an attack, and he went for Hydralisks. So that was here the big difference. This gives him the opportunity to go into Lurkers there eventually, but he opts to go for a Spire instead. So perhaps looking to try and surprise his opponent with some Mutalisks to fly around between the main natural third base, go into those middle lines, kill a bunch of probes, and just apply a lot of pressure to then maybe force herO into an attack that he wouldn't really want to do otherwise.
That could work out really well. Big Mutalisk swaps can be game-winning. Small rounds of Mutas, even 7 or 8 Mutas flying to mineral lines can be good, but herO, if he spots that, the Mutas aren't really going to add anything to a maxed out army. In a frontal engagement, they're not useful. And it is just Roaches and Hydras up against a Charge Lot Immortal Storm army here. The Storm is almost finished. How many High Templar have we got in the back? 4. Wow. I believe they've only got 1 Storm per High Templar. herO looks like he wants to fight here, but I think he's got to be careful. That's still a ton of Roach Hydra. It all comes down to how well he can use his Force Fields and his Psystorms.
Yeah, soO needs to dodge these Storms here. He needs to minimize the Force Field impact in this fight, pulling back as soon as the Storm goes down. Actually stormed his own Observer and killed him, but some of these start on landing big time. herO moving inside of the army of the Zerg. That was almost a mistake here.
Yeah, his Storms are now out. The Force Fields were decent, but it feels like soO has so many numbers. Drones being pulled off the line to help support. Files breaking down the last Force Fields. The Zealots on the left-hand flank are wearing their way through. The numbers thinning out on both sides. herO has the upgrade advantage. His Immortals and Archons still alive. He's taking an okay trade, but if he loses the Immortals, he's in big trouble.
soO's trying to go for the Prism here, but that big Zealot warp-in actually completes just right before, and so many of these Immortals are left over. herO now with the supply lead. He's gonna snipe that fourth base and press forward to try and finish this game.
There is not a lot of Zerg, just a few Roaches and Hydralisks coming together, and that core of Immortals and Archons is not going to be stopped. herO brings it back and scores a win. Getting it back to 2-1, the beginning of a comeback. And that little bit of confidence finally on his face, that's what he needed to get the momentum back in his favor.
And perhaps he found a style here that suits him better. Just build up that economy a little bit more, go for Storm. There was a little bit of micro mishap, I think, like pressing forward the way he did with his army. That was
like
almost
a move command, right?
Yeah, at first I was like, oh, this is really smart. He's going forward to make sure he traps those units behind force fields or inside of force fields and then kills it. But then he was kind of out of force fields for the most part, so his army took a ton of damage there. That was scary for a second, but he does pull it off regardless. And we're now 2-1 here in soO's favor. herO opening up the scoreboard. Very nicely done here. That was very clever the way he played that whole game.
Yeah, the adjustment from game 1, right? It looked like such a mirror image of that first game with soO respecting the threat of a frontal push, building so many of these Roaches, and not really building the economy lead. Even though soO was up a base for that entire game, he was never really utilizing it with the worker count. He was always expecting a push to come out. herO, beautiful pressure with those adepts. He was even picking off creep tumors, diving in for workers, and it felt like as he picked off a drone, another creep tumor, he was building that confidence and getting that momentum. He started
the comeback train. He needs 2 more games to make it through to that grand finals. The Prince of IEM in the bottom right, he is herO.
His opponents starting in the northwest hand side here of board. Alexander playing as the Red Zerg. It is Chivos soO. You know, I didn't particularly think that herO needed to do the timing that he did last game, but the more I think about it, the more I think it was a brilliant timing. Because if you think about it, that was pre-Lurker, pre-Mutas, pre-anything really valuable that soO would have added to his army. And he was, I think the way this was going, he was almost always going to add something extra on top of just Roaches and Hydralisks. So that was just brilliant because I think it caught soO off guard and he just didn't quite have enough, kind of misread it. And it's almost as if he can't help himself. He's like, all right, I'll take a third base, build up my take, build up my walker count. Nah, you know what? It's time. Let's just go. I have enough. Let's just go kill this guy.
You know, I think that's herO's forte, though. It's timing attacks, it's aggression, it's that decisive micro. Even where we thought it might have been a mistake with his army, kind of move commanding forward deep to trap soO's forces with the force fields. This is the sort of stuff that pays off for herO. It's just picking the right attack, the right moment, right? He faked out early on with some aggression. He took a delayed third, and he waited for that opportune moment before the tech kicked in. herO is going to be looking for more of that play here. We are now on Port Alexander. It's a map which is quite spread out, rather large rush distance. And we have seen a lot of multi-prong aggression in multiple sides. Definitely a map which is more prone to those big, long games than ones like Cyber Forest that we saw earlier.
Yeah, and if you're herO here, I think playing a similar style would be definitely pretty good. But obviously, soO is now in a state of, he knows about that possibility, right? After last game, he definitely would want to be looking to try and make adjustments. So obviously, if you're herO, you absolutely don't have to open similarly to what he did last game, but it just looks so good that it's very, very tempting. And we're going to have a Stargate here starting inside of the main base from herO.
Interesting to see herO here going for a much more generic opening, and I guess this is the map for it. There's still a lot of cheeky things you can do off of this. And the Stargate going to give you the ability to get out Oracles. There is a Stalker on the way, so I think he'll probably skip the Phoenix, use the Oracle to spot the Overlord on that little bit of high ground, and go from there. The single Adept poke across the map. Now, this is definitely not herO's forte, a standard game, so I'm hoping he transitions off into something that has a little bit of a weird edge to it, something soO hasn't seen before. On the other side, looking at the previous map, I think if soO runs into something similar as the follow-up, I'd love to see an early Mutalisk switch. Just kind of having the Spire ready is definitely something which can punish herO when he's not decisive, but it's greedy. It's a little bit risky. herO's so aggressive, you spend the money on the Spire and the Mutas. If that happens right as herO attacks you, you can be in big trouble.
And soO, he has 2 match points. If he wants to mix in something different, he's also the one that can do that. I mean, we've seen more Niduses in some of these Zergs single map than in this entire series. So the Nidus has yet to come out here in this one series. It's extremely strong. And again, if he can somewhat catch herO off guard, the problem is that herO is the one usually playing aggressive. So aggressive players, they'll usually have enough units here to defend. soO actually didn't scout anything, but just to be preemptive here and being careful, he's going to start a bunch of spores. Make sure he doesn't take any damage here, or minimizes it against these Oracles that are on their way. We got a Robo on the way on the other side from herO that just started.
Yeah, it does look like with the fast gases, there'll probably be a Twilight behind it as well. Oracle dives in, 2 worker kills, doesn't lose too much life. The shields will regenerate, so nice little bit of harassment there to get things started. The Twilight Council does go down, so it looks like it will be an Archon drop follow-up here. herO doing just about the most standard play in the current meta, feeling like he's confident enough to play straight up.
Yeah, the area around the third base is very wide open on this map, so Zerg, they're going to have a creep to work with to engage a little bit quicker. You know, I mean, an attack from the ground. So when herO finally takes his third base, whichever one he takes, there is potential for soO to actually siege that if he wanted to go for something like a big attack, but usually those attacks are big commitments. So does he want to try and go for a similar army to what we saw in game number 1, perhaps, and go for an attack? That would be risky.
Ooh, looking for more worker kills is herO. Does take another 3. That goes up to about 6 workers that he's taken out this game. Not bad at all. 7 in total, in fact. So herO getting some nice little bits of harassment damage. soO continuing to power out the workers. And once again, fast forge. That seems to be herO's little adjustment. Even here on what looked like a dead standard build, he loves those upgrades, and he gets the quick +1 on the way. The third base still down at a good timing as well. herO though, nice. Wedges his units up against the wall. The Zergling's going to get a decent bit of surface area.
When Zealot was trapped behind and unable to attack for the longest time here, so the positioning didn't work out so well for herO. Now he's going to have to reinforce. Flying back with one of the Oracles here.
Oracle should be able to take them out. And soO just going to take a nice little trade there, disrupting herO a little bit. The Archons are ready. More gateways are on the way behind this. herO looking like he's going to go up to 6 gateways. He likes pausing here on 45 probes and having the chance to attack in the previous games. But this time around, much faster third and continual probe production. He's looking to go deeper in this game.
And the Hydra is then about to finish here. This is a little bit scary because the creep spread is really good around all of the bases of soO. He's going to have so much vision. All he has to do is stay ready and in position against this Prism. As Hydralisks come out, let's say if he was able to catch that Prism and kill it, I think he would just have to counterattack the third base to win the game because of the way it's set up that I talked about earlier. Because yeah, the third base is just so wide open. There is no ramp, nothing. So herO cannot lose that Prism and his Archons. He's gonna have to be really careful here because Hydralisks, they're now on the production tab and they're seconds away here from finishing.
Those Archons not finding much at all. Very few pickoffs for them. They have, of course, spotted that there's a lot of roaches out. Hydra's on the way as well. herO starting a shield battery at the third base, going straight up to 6 gases on that third. But his probe count is not that high. Makes me think it might almost even be fake gases there. These Archons loading back in. Charge +2 on the way. He's going up to 8 gateways and continual immortal production. herO building a real fighting force. Meanwhile, soO non-stop roaches and hydras. His range upgrade is done. His movement speed's almost ready. I feel like we're gonna see a huge clash in about a minute's time, maybe even less. soO looks like he wants to push across this map. He's adding more and more roaches. He's not even gonna be adding the Hydralisk movement speed upgrade. He's just gonna kind of waddle across this map, trying to engage!
And it goes down here. herO with a massive blunder here. Following this Hydralisk with the Observer now, but I mean, he's already lost the Prism. He needs to set up defensively. It's going to be so tough for him to hold on. soO with a massive supply lead, 60 in total.
Oh, losing those Archons is huge, but the Prism might even be more important. Its ability to micro your Immortals around is absolutely massive. He's going to try and catch some of these roaches with his force fields, but those sentries are low on energy, Todd. A lot of them were just warped in. Another wave is good, but the Biles breaking through. The roaches and Hydras crashing over. He's trying to warp in more sentries, but one of the Immortals has already fallen, and without the Warp Prism to pick them up to safety, another Immortal is going to go down.
Yeah, those Ravagers able to break through those force fields. Those Archons were needed in the fight. I think herO knows that he messed up, and he messed up for one last time here in this series. soO seizing the opportunity, just getting a ton of units and using the weakness here of that third base and all the surface area that he could to attack with a massive army here to put an end to this match.
Oh, the Archons morphing on the outside of the wall. The Biles are going to land on them before the Prism can whisk them to safety. 2 more Archons go down. And with that, unfortunately, herO's last Immortal falls. He has to tap out. Making it look easy. soO dominating.
Yet another grand finals for the veteran Zerg.
What a decisive way to start the day there. Absolutely insane. I can't wait to hear from the man himself down there on the main stage. Take it away, Smix.
Thank you very much, guys. Congratulations, soO. You're through to the grand finals here in Katowice. It's been over a year since you've been able to do so. Please, what is it like to do so in front of all of these fans?
결승전 진출 축하드리고요. 이런 많은 해외 팬들 앞에서 1년 넘게 결승전 다시 올라갈 수 있어서 소감 얘기해 주세요.
제가 여기에 서는 상상을 해보긴 했는데 절대 못 올 거라고 생각했는데 그래도 열심히 한 결과가 나온 것 같아서 너무 좋습니다.
So soO says, you know, guys, I've always imagined what it would be like to stand on this stage here in Katowice. I've thought about it, but I never actually thought that it would be a reality. To be able to stand here is an incredible feeling, and I feel like finally all the hard work and practice that I've put in is finally paying off. And in this series against herO, you showed a phenomenal ZVP. When I talked to you yesterday, you told me that you gained confidence from your 3-0 against Zest, but you were worried because herO has a different style. So tell us about how you prepared.
어제 주성호 선수를 3대0으로 이겨서 자신감은 얻었지만 그래도 다른 스타일 플레이하는 김준호 선수라서 좀 걱정이 된다고 했었는데 어떻게 준비했는지 얘기해 주세요.
솔직히 준호 스타일이 너무 다양해가지고 준비하는 거는 의미가 없다고 생각했고 그냥 마인드 컨트롤 잘하고 내가 할 수 있는 플레이를 잘하자 이런 생각으로 준비했어요.
So he says when it comes to herO, he is such a diverse player. He showcases so many different styles in terms of PvZ. So I actually thought it would be pointless to try to specifically prepare anything for him. And so because of that, I decided, okay, let me just do my utmost to control my own mind and to do my absolute best in showcasing my ZVP skills. And I think that worked out in my favor. And now if you want to become the Intel Extreme Masters World Champion, you have one more player to face. It's going to be either Stats or Dark. Who do you want to face?
김대엽 선수나 박영우 선수에 대해서 누구를 더 만나고 싶으세요?
솔직히 둘 다 좀 사연이 있는 상대들이라서 둘 중에 누가 와도 재밌을 것 같고 개인적으로는 령우를 만나고 싶네요.
So he says, when it comes to both Stats and Dark, I have a lot of history with both of these players. So I think no matter who comes up, it'll be a very interesting finals no matter what. But if you ask me to choose a player, I'll have to say Dark. So I'm hoping that he'll be the person to move up to the finals to face me. But for now, congratulations once again, soO, on making it to the grand finals here in Katowice.
Been able to qualify for some of the most prestigious finals around the world, has now found himself here in the finals of the Intel Extreme Masters Katowice. What a way to finish off that series in the end. The series overall didn't impress us a huge amount, admittedly, at the desk. We're going to be critical here. Maynard and Demuslim going to be joining me here at the desk. herO's attempts to quell the power behind soO weren't very successful throughout the entirety of the thing, never mind even just the one game that he took off him.
Well, I mean, you look at soO versus Zest, and then you look at herO's games where he went down to Scarlet in the open bracket, and those games, while they were a little bit weird, herO hasn't been able to flex his PvZ muscles in this tournament and really show us how good he is at the matchup. He has been playing a lot of PvPs, like he was from Group A, and primarily we got to see that in PvP he is really quite a monster, but soO is a different beast.
Yes.
This guy is in second place, well-deserved, at least second place. I'm personally hoping to ride that fairy tale all the way to first. I want him to finally do it.
Maybe. I mean, again, soO greeted all of herO's aggression with relative ease, aside from one game where it kind of slipped away from him just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, herO could never really shift gears at all. All he wanted to do was attack. There was weird builds on there. Automaton, there you go.
Yeah.
herO went for a 2-gate Adept pressure build, which on one of the largest maps to get across the map, it was just weird choicing by herO. He did play really good in Game 3, got that Adept harass with the Warp Prism. That's something I haven't seen utilized that well before.
Yeah.
And that's the game they ended up winning. But besides that, it was a bit of a disappointing herO, but he is just getting back on his feet. But with soO making it to the finals, this is awesome. This is what we all want to see, honestly.
Yeah, this is a story that a lot of StarCraft fans are very familiar with. However, the conclusion maybe for soO is also very familiar with StarCraft fans as well. Let's check in with the bracket here, of course, to confirm that soO has made his way into that grand final, and he will be making a best of 7 happen against either Stats or Dark later on in the day. Gentlemen, my big question to you guys is, looking at the last 3 names that are available, is can soO do it? Can soO get a first place?
The question is absolutely, but will he? Is the big question. I actually think that he has a rather good shot at Dark. I think that soO ZVZ, we just saw it against the world champ, is world class, possibly even the best ZVZ that I've seen from a Korean in recent memory. And I think that that'll be his best shot. Stats is extremely scary in PvZ. I just don't.
Yes.
I mean, if he's
He's pushed the world champion twice in a row when it comes to finals to the very, very brink of destruction.
exactly, yeah. I mean, it's a high pressure moment for him. I don't envy his position, or maybe I do. It's a lot of money. No, actually, I envy his position. I'd love to be in the grand final and lose 4-0.
Ben, your thoughts about soO? Do you think he'll be able to kind of eventually round it out? What are your thoughts?
herO was definitely the underdog of these 4 players. That has to be said.
Yeah.
You know, he used to be really, really good quite a long time ago. This was an impressive result getting top 4. But the last 3 names, soO, Dark, and Stats, those are titans, absolute powerhouses. I am super looking forward to the next series, though, because I think whoever wins that is probably looking like a favorite, especially given that you're against soO in the final.
Yeah, I'm very excited to eventually break that fight down as well. Thank you very much, gentlemen. As for now, we're going to go to a short break here for the Intel Extreme Masters Katowice. When we return, it's another PvZ. It's Stats going up against Dark.